The sun was already high in the sky, casting a warm glow over the beachside park where I had set up for the day's photo shoot. I'm Laura, a 35-year-old freelance photographer known locally for capturing life's candid moments. Photography wasn't just a job for me. It was a way to connect with people, to freeze their joys and sorrows in time. As I adjusted my camera, a woman approached me, her expression bright with recognition. "Are you the Laura who does those amazing photo sessions?" she exclaimed, pointing to her family, a man and a young boy playing nearby. I smiled, always grateful for such encounters. "Yes, I am. It's always lovely to meet people who appreciate my work." Her next request caught me off guard. "Would you mind taking a photo of us?" "I'd love a family portrait, but could you make sure my son's face isn't shown? He's a bit camera shy." Agreeing, I turned towards the family, and that's when my heart skipped a beat. The man playing with the boy was unmistakably Daniel, my estranged husband. His back was to us, unaware of my presence. How could this be? He was supposed to be on a business trip. "Of course I can do that," I managed to say, hiding my shock. "What about the father?" The woman glanced at Daniel, who suddenly looked pale and uneasy. "Oh, he's just camera shy too." I nodded, my mind racing. Daniel had always been a private person, but this was out of character for him. I set up the shot, making sure the boy's face was hidden as requested. The woman was beaming, oblivious to my turmoil. As I clicked the shutter, my thoughts were in turmoil. Daniel and I had been struggling with infertility for years, a shadow looming over our marriage. His increasing detachment and frequent business trips had only widened the gap between us. Now here he was, playing the doting father to another child. My hands trembled slightly as I handed the woman her family's photo. "Thank you," she said, her eyes sparkling with happiness. A happiness that I once thought would be mine. I excused myself, needing a moment to collect my thoughts. I walked away, my mind replaying the scene. The laughter, the smiles, the picture-perfect family. It was everything Daniel and I had dreamed of. But it was a dream shattered, replaced by this painful reality. The rest of the day passed, and I mechanically completed the photo shoot, my usual passion for my work dampened by the encounter. As I packed up my gear, I couldn't shake off the image of Daniel with that woman and child. It felt like a cruel joke, a mockery of the life we were supposed to have together. I drove home, the silence in the car echoing the emptiness inside me. The house felt colder, lonelier as I stepped inside. The walls were adorned with photos I had taken over the years, moments of joy, laughter, and love. But now, they seemed like ghosts of a past that was slipping away. Slipping away from me. As I sat down, the image of Daniel's contented face as he played with the boy haunted me. It was a face I hadn't seen in years, not since our struggles began. The realization hit me hard. Daniel had moved on, building a new life, a new family without me. But why? Why hadn't he just told me? Why did he choose to live a double life, to deceive me so completely? My heart ached with betrayal, with questions that had no answers. I knew I couldn't just let this go. I needed to confront Daniel, to understand why he did what he did. But more than that, I needed closure. I needed to reclaim my life, to find a way to move forward from this unexpected and painful revelation. The night stretched on, each tick of the clock a reminder of the decision I had to make. It was time to face the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Tomorrow I would confront Daniel. Tomorrow I would start the journey of finding myself again. Sleep had eluded me, as images of Daniel's betrayal replayed in my mind. Today I needed answers. Today I had to confront the man I once called my husband. I arrived at Daniel's office, my resolve firm. The receptionist looked up, surprised to see me. "Mrs. Turner, Daniel didn't mention you were coming." "Just a surprise visit," I replied, trying to sound casual. My hands were shaking as I made my way to his office. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear Daniel's voice. He was on a call, laughing in a way he hadn't with me in years. I pushed the door open, and our eyes met. His laughter died in his throat. "Laura, what a surprise," he stammered, hastily ending his call. "We need to talk, Daniel," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. He nodded, motioning me to sit. I declined. Standing gave me a sense of control, a feeling I desperately needed. "Why, Daniel?" The words were out before I could think. "Why the lies? The family at the beach? Is she why we couldn't have a family? Daniel's eyes shifted, avoiding mine. Laura, it's not what you think. Ellen and I, it just happened. It wasn't planned. What just happened? My voice rose, anger seeping through. While I was at home longing for a child, you were out there making a new life? Laura, please let me explain. Daniel's voice was pleading, but it only fueled my anger. What's there to explain, Daniel? That you've been living a double life? That all our struggles, our pain meant nothing to you? He was silent, the guilt evident in his eyes. It was all the confirmation I needed. I want a divorce, Daniel. The words hung heavy in the air, a finality that even he couldn't ignore. Laura, wait. We can work this out? Think about it, he said, reaching out to me. I stepped back, repulsed by the touch of the man who had betrayed me so deeply. There's nothing left to think about, Daniel. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. I left his office, the weight of the wedding ring on my finger suddenly gone. Unbearable. I slid it off, leaving it on his desk. It was a symbol of a promise broken, not a love betrayed. The drive back was a blur. I was numb, the reality of what had happened slowly sinking in. My marriage was over, my dreams shattered, but amidst the chaos, a strange sense of relief washed over me. The truth was out, and I was no longer bound by Daniel's lies. Back home, I looked around the house we had shared. It felt empty, a shell of the home it once was. I packed a bag with essentials, knowing I couldn't stay here any longer. Every corner, every picture, reminded me of what had been lost. I made a call to a close friend, explaining the situation. She was shocked, but offered her support without hesitation. Come over, Laura. You don't have to go through this alone. I locked the door for the last time, leaving behind the life I had known. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was determined to rebuild, to find a new path. As I drove away, I realized that this was not just an end. It was a beginning. A chance to rediscover myself, to pursue my passions without the shadow of Daniel's betrayal. But as I looked back at the house in the rearview mirror, a fierce determination took root. Daniel had hurt me deeply, but I wouldn't let his actions define me. I would rise from this, stronger and more resilient. And Daniel, he would face the consequences of his actions. I would make sure of that. No one betrays Laura Turner and walks away unscathed. The sun was just beginning to set, casting a golden hue over the city, as I made my way to Ellen's residence. The address had been easy enough to find, a testament to Daniel's carelessness. My heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. I was about to face the woman who had unknowingly intruded into my life. I rang the doorbell, my resolve firm. The door opened, and there she was, Ellen. She looked surprised, unaware of who I was or the storm she was about to face. Hello, can I help you? She asked, her voice cautious yet polite. I'm Laura Turner, I said, watching her face for any sign of recognition. Ellen's eyes widened slightly. Turner? As in Daniel Turner? Yes, Daniel's wife. I emphasized the word wife, letting it hang heavily between us. Ellen's face paled, her composure faltering. I had no idea, she stammered. Daniel never mentioned he was married. The pain in her voice was genuine, but it did little to soothe the anger and betrayal coursing through me. And the child? I asked, my tone sharp. He's my son, but Daniel? He's not the father. I swear I didn't know about you. Her words hit me like a wave, a mix of relief and renewed anger. Relief that the child wasn't Daniel's, but anger that he had played us both. Ellen, do you realize the pain your relationship with Daniel has caused me? My voice was steady, but inside I was screaming. I'm so sorry, Laura. I had no idea. If I had known, I never would have. Her voice trailed off, her regret evident. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was just as much a victim of Daniel's lies as I was. Ellen, I'm not here to blame you. Daniel is the one at fault, but I needed to see for myself, to understand. Ellen nodded, tears welling in her eyes. I'll end things with him. I can't be part of this deceit. I turned to leave, but not before adding, thank you, Ellen, and I'm sorry for the pain this will cause you. The drive back was a time for reflection. Ellen's innocence in the matter had shifted something in me. My fight wasn't with her, it was with Daniel. He was the one who had woven this web of lies, and he was the one who needed to pay. Back home, I sat down, my mind racing with possibilities. Daniel needed to be exposed to face the consequences of his actions. But how? A public scandal? A legal battle? My thoughts were interrupted by a ping on my phone. It was a message from Ellen. I've ended things with Daniel. He's devastated, but I told him the truth about why. I thought you should know. A small victory, but it wasn't enough. Daniel had caused so much pain, and he needed to understand the extent of it. It was time for him to face the music. I started planning, each step calculated and precise. Daniel's reputation, his career, his social standing, I would dismantle them, piece by piece. He would understand the pain he had caused, the lives he had shattered. As the night deepened, my plan took shape, a plan that would not only expose Daniel's betrayal, but also reclaim my dignity and strength. The road ahead was fraught with challenges, but I was ready. Daniel had underestimated me, thinking he could manipulate and betray without consequence. He was about to learn just how wrong he was. The morning air was crisp as I made my way to the local cafe, a place where many of Daniel's colleagues and acquaintances frequented. My plan was simple, yet effective, to expose Daniel's deceit in a public setting, ensuring his social and professional circle were aware of his true character. I spotted Daniel in the corner, engaged in a lively conversation with a group of his colleagues. The sight of him, so carefree and unburdened, fueled my resolve. I approached the table, my footsteps deliberate. "Good morning, Daniel," I greeted, my voice loud enough to draw the attention of his colleagues. Daniel's smile faltered as he saw me. "Laura, what are you doing here?" "I thought it was time your friends knew the truth about you," I said, my gaze unwavering. The table fell silent, the air thick with tension. Daniel's colleagues looked between us, sensing the impending drama. "What truth?" Daniel's voice was a mix of confusion and fear. "The truth about your double life, your affairs, and how you've betrayed me, your wife," I declared, my voice steady. The expressions around the table shifted from confusion to shock. Murmurs and whispers began to fill the room as people started to pay attention. Daniel stood up, his face red with anger and embarrassment. "Let's talk about this outside." "No, Daniel, we'll talk here, where everyone can hear the kind of man you really are," I countered, standing my ground. Daniel's colleagues began to stand up, excusing themselves from the unfolding scene. Daniel attempted to salvage his dignity, but it was too late. The seeds of doubt were planted. "Everyone should know that you've been living a lie," I continued, my voice rising. "While I was at home, longing for a family, you were out there creating a new life with someone else." Daniel's face was a picture of defeat. He knew there was no coming back from this. "You've destroyed our marriage with your lies and deceit. And now it's time you face the consequences," I concluded, my heart pounding with a mix of triumph and sadness. I turned and walked out of the cafe, leaving Daniel to face the aftermath. The whispers and stares followed me, but I held my head high. I had exposed Daniel for who he truly was, and in doing so, I had taken the first step in reclaiming my life. As I walked, a sense of empowerment washed over me. I had stood up to Daniel, exposed his true nature, and in doing so, I had found a strength I didn't know I had. But this was just the beginning. I knew Daniel wouldn't go down without a fight, and I needed to be prepared. I would have to be strategic, smart, and one step ahead. This was more than just a personal vendetta. It was a fight for justice, for all the pain and betrayal he had caused. I went home, my mind buzzing with plans and possibilities. Daniel had underestimated me, thinking he could control and manipulate without consequence. But he was wrong. I was no longer the woman he thought he could easily deceive. I would make sure that Daniel paid for his actions, not just in the eyes of his colleagues and friends, but legally and financially. He would learn that betrayal comes with a price, and I would be the one to collect it. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. Armed with evidence of Daniel's infidelity and deceit, I met with a lawyer to initiate the divorce proceedings. The evidence was damning, a clear record of Daniel's duplicity. My lawyer, a seasoned professional, assured me that the case was strong. I could feel the momentum building, a crescendo of justice that would soon reach Daniel. The thought of it brought a bittersweet satisfaction. The pain he had caused me would now be his to bear. Meanwhile, word of Daniel's indiscretions had spread like wildfire. His social circle shrank, Colleagues distanced themselves, and friends he once thought loyal began to turn their backs. The community we once shared now looked at him with disdain. But it was at his workplace where the impact hit hardest. His reputation, once sterling, was now tarnished. Rumors swirled, and whispers followed him in the corridors. He was no longer the respected professional he had prided himself on being. I watched from a distance as Daniel's world began to crumble. But there was no joy in it, only a sense of justice. He had made his bed, and now he had to lie in it. The day of the divorce hearing arrived, and I walked into the courtroom with my head held high. Daniel was there, looking diminished, a shadow of the confident man he once was. As the proceedings began, Daniel's lawyer tried to paint him as a remorseful, changed man. But the evidence spoke louder than his words. The judge, after reviewing the case, was swift in his judgment. The divorce was granted, along with a substantial settlement in my favor. Walking out of the courtroom, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was over. The chapter of my life that Daniel had so callously tainted was now closed. In the weeks that followed, I poured myself into my work, finding solace in the art of photography, capturing moments of genuine joy and love. I was reminded of the beauty that still existed in the world despite the pain. Daniel's downfall continued. He struggled to find employment, his tarnished reputation preceding him wherever he went. The financial strain of the settlement and his dwindling career prospects seemed to be a fitting consequence for his actions. As for me, I found peace. The betrayal, the pain, the fight for justice had taken a toll, but it had also made me stronger. I had stood up for myself, fought back, and come out on the other side. The support of friends in the community was overwhelming. They had seen me through the darkest of times, and now they celebrated my newfound independence with me. In their company, I rediscovered laughter and hope. One evening, as I sat editing photos from a recent wedding shoot, I realized something profound. My life, once defined by my relationship with Daniel, was now my own. I had reclaimed it, piece by piece, through my resilience and determination. As I looked at the photos on my screen, images of love and commitment, I knew that one day I too would find love again. A love based on trust, respect, and mutual support. But for now, I was content. Content in my independence, in my work, and in the knowledge that I had faced adversity and emerged victorious. Daniel's betrayal had been a painful chapter in my life, but it was just that, a chapter. My story was far from over, and I was the one writing it.